Hello once again, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Undefeated Full Court Cleveland on FanDuel Sports Network. I'm Rafa Hernandez Brito, and I'm joined by Mr. Sam Amico today. Another episode, Sam. Now you and I flying kind of solo because Booby is doing his duties, and now we can't afford to have Nick here on every episode. So it's you
expensive.
and I, my friend. Let's go.
Yeah.
Cavs still undefeated, and that means Full Court Cleveland still undefeated.
That's right. We haven't lost yet. You know, every day we show up, right? We're unbeaten. And the Cavs have been doing a lot of that, showing up, finishing the job. Haven't had perfect games so far,
Which is good, I think.
That's really good. We heard Kenny Atkinson talk about that a little bit. Maybe we get humbled a little bit and still win the games, and that's been the key because all anybody's going to remember at this point is 13-0.
On today's show, we're going to talk about some Cavs headlines. I think there's plenty of headlines to grab from. We're also going to look ahead for the next week that the Cavs have. Finally, they're going to have some action on the Emirates Cup. And also, of course, we're going to look around the NBA. There was some 50 pieces put up there around the NBA. And it's surprising to me, Sam, I'm not going to criticize anybody by name. I'm just going to throw a general here, and then you can grab it if you can catch it.
Yeah.
I was watching the sports news in various channels, and it surprises me that still at 13-0 after the 2-0 road trip with victories in Chicago and in Philadelphia, the Cavs weren't even the leading. I understand it was Thursday morning when I was watching, and of course it's Thursday night football, the big NFC East matchup that whoever wins that Commanders-Eagles game could be winning the division, the division, but the Cavs weren't even the leading NBA news or headline in most shows.
I've noticed that in most shows nationally, it's been a very localized thing, this 13-0 start. But the bottom line, Rafa, is you're talking about a team that's one of 6 teams in the history of the NBA who have done this. And, you know, the NBA's been around since 1946. So you would think they would get a little more love nationally. But, you know, the key is just keep playing well, keep doing the right thing, keep giving yourself a chance in these games. And if you keep winning, eventually the national media, I assume, will take notice. But locally, it's obviously been huge.
It's not something which new to us. And you and I were kind of on the same way because I was looking at numbers and I said, let me see how many players have ever scored 50 points in the NBA. And I think it's like 166 players in the history of the NBA. Some of them have done it multiple times. And obviously, we're going to talk about later about Wemby's game and the 59 piece that Giannis put out to barely beat the Pistons in OT. But let's go back to our Cavs on the headline. Today we're going to be hearing some clips about the role changing for Donovan Mitchell, which I think he's done a really good job about. But also what you mentioned before, some difficult games, some different games. Everybody thinks that because Philadelphia didn't have Embiid or George or Maxey or Drummond, it's an easy game. That's exactly what the problem is usually in the NBA, more than in any other sport.
Yeah.
It's not the type of game that you're just going to come in and take the W.
Yeah, well, and you know, in the NBA, obviously one player can make such a huge difference. But, you know, if you look at the Cavs game against the Sixers where they were, you know, the Cavs were a little bit clunky in that game for a big part of the first half. And Kenny Atkinson said at halftime we kind of had a heart-to-heart when the Cavs were down 6. I just think, you know, the Sixers without Embiid, without George, without Tyrese Maxey, those guys are NBA players and they're at home and they're out there to prove something. Mm-hmm. And now, as the Cavs are realizing at 13-0, they've got a massive target on their back and everybody wants to be that team that ends the streak. So, you know, they're going to be facing a lot of teams now that are going to be even more determined to face them, almost as if they're NBA champs again. You know, everybody wants to beat them. They want to be that team because I'll tell you what will lead the national news, Roth. and that's when the Cavs lose a game, because that's going to
No
be
more
the national
undefeated.
news. Right, yeah. So the streak is over. We haven't really been talking about it if you're national news. And then all of a sudden they lose, and look, the Cavs lost a game. But the key is they're finding ways to win even when they don't play their best. And that's been really, to me, kind of – put it this way, an NBA scout said to me after the Nets game, after the Cavs came back and beat the Nets at home in an ugly game, he came back, he said, the Cavs can't even lose when they try. So they've just been finding multiple ways to get it done, and that's really been the story so far.
And I think the games against the Nets is, it was that really, I don't want to say weird, but it's kind of like a loaded with different emotions weekend, with the Warriors coming in. Kenny Atkinson was an assistant there, won a title with the Warriors, and then the Nets come in. The Nets was his first head coaching job, and Jordi Fernandez is coming in. So it was kind of like a weird Kenny Atkinson weekend, and the guys responded to his ass and his knees. But in today's show, when we come back, we're going to talk about Kenny Atkinson and Donovan Mitchell. We're going to hear from them about the role La Araña Mitchell, Spider, has been playing. And I think he showed it a little bit in Philadelphia. And we'll hear from them and a lot more around the NBA on Full Court Cleveland when we come back. Welcome back, everybody, to Full Court Cleveland on the FanDuel Network. And it's time for the Cleveland headlines that are brought to you by our good friends at Garage Beer. Garage Beer comes in just 2 flavors, classic light lager and lime. No frills, no bitterness, no IPAs. It's just beer-flavored beer. Find your local retailers who have Garage Beer for you nearby, visiting drinkgaragebeer.com. And while we went to the break, our head coach, Ryan, just called a timeout and said, wait a minute. I got to go to my bench. I got to get my guy who come in and give you guys some energy. So, everybody, please welcome the shooter, Mr. Boobie Gibson.
Man,
What's up, Boobie?
I like coming off the bench anyway, right?
No,
I do. I like to read the floor, see what's going on in the game, and then check in ready to shoot, baby. So I'm here ready to shoot, man.
You come just in time, because one of the things that we have been talking about throughout this great start by the Cavs 13-0 up to where we are right now, before the homestand coming up, it's the role that Donovan Mitchell has played for this team. We have first the Spider himself talking about his role.
But for me, the role is different this year. You know what I mean? It's sometimes it's scoring, sometimes it's getting off it. And for me, tonight was one of those nights where it's like, all right, got to learn it back-to-back. Like, let's come out, and set the tone. But obviously, we all want to win when you have a coach going against their former teams and whatnot. But tonight was just a night where, that was my job. Go out there and kind of feel the game and kind of try to take it early, but definitely felt, the emotion after the game. But it's great we got that win for him, but that's my job. Do whatever's asked of me. Let's continue to be that, but definitely love that we got that one.
And Boobie, you're a player. You know what it means to change roles. This guy is a superstar. Let's say it. He decided to come back to Cleveland to sign, put his name down, and say he wants to be part of this. Yeah. You're not surprised, I'm sure, but what's your take on Don and the role that he's been playing?
I think it's been the biggest reason for our success, right? Because when you get a new coach, the hardest thing for that coach to do is get everybody to buy into his system and his way of thinking. And so you got to start with the big guns, right? And so if you start with the big guns, sometimes you have that pushback because a superstar he's so set in his ways that he just want to do him on the floor. But when your top guy says, you know what, I want to win, and I trust the guys on the team, so I'm going to empower the rest of the roster. I'm going to let everybody do their thing. And when it's time for me to be Spider and Donovan Mitchell, take over games, now I'm fresh, and now everybody feels like they're part of the team. And I think when you look at the roster, and even when I hear everybody else's comments, they all kind of mirror his. Like, they all talk about each other. And I think the togetherness and the selflessness of this team, it starts with him making sacrifices to his game. Because I think we all as fans know that he could go out there and go get 40 if he wants to. But to see him making passes, to see him running to the corner, to see him having a 50-50 efforts, to me, it just says a lot about what this team is about, more about winning than stats.
And you hit something really, really big, really huge in this because it's the mirroring. And I think that's the best part about this whole thing, that it's not a different song being sang by everybody. Everybody is in sync. And Kenny Atkinson spoke about also the role that Donovan Mitchell needs to play in order to be the leader of this club.
It's monumental because he's willing to share the spotlight. He's willing to be a decoy, and he was a decoy. Like at the end, a lot of times they're going to put the best player on him, right? And you don't want to bring his guy into it. You have to look for the best matchup, and that's kind of what we did tonight. And he's never complains about it. And we all know, there's other situations where guys they get labeled a superstar, and like, man, I have to, just for my whole ego and I have to be that guy. I have to have it at the end, and that's not sustainable, and it doesn't, to me, that you don't win big that way. You win games, but that's part. I think that this is a big part of us taking the next step, is him being able to step back and share the spotlight and encourage that. Like he's saying, don't put Darius and Ty in it. It's just makes my job so much easier.
And Sam, there you have it. Kenny Atkinson talking about his player's role, and I think you have seen it in different portions of the 13-0 start. And even in just one game, like the game in Philadelphia, where Donovan Mitchell played that role, and what Kenny was talking about, on recognizing when he can do the shooting, when he can be the facilitator, and that is great when you hear a coach talk about his player and his player talking about the role that this coach has given, and it's almost like in sync, the same thing they're talking about.
Yeah, that's what's known as buy-in, and as Booby just covered it, Donovan Mitchell also in that game, people forget, had 13 rebounds.
Yep.
So he's willing to do the little things, and when you get your star player to buy in as a coach, you've got the whole team.
Yep.
And we see that Donovan's not just talking the talk. He is, in games against Brooklyn, for instance, when Darius Garland was hot at the end, Donovan said, all I wanted to do was make sure that Darius had the ball there in the fourth quarter. That was my whole goal that game, and I think that just having your star player, behave that way, now all of a sudden you have multiple star players. You have guys who are confident that they can step up and do the job because their star player is encouraging them, and not only encouraging them in his words, but his actions on the court.
And we have talked about that the teams really show what they're made of when adversity hits. And the Cavs have had adversity even within a game, Booby. And this is kind of a loaded question for you because, yes, we're 13-0, yes, it's 7-0 on the road. And a lot of questions can come out of there, like what is making this team huge? Is there pressure coming up? But I wanted to leave with, how big is it that Donovan Mitchell leads by example by admitting he kind of made a mistake at the end of the game, looking for that elusive first triple-double. And like you said, like, when have you seen me say no to a dunk? Right. But you know what? I love the fact that he's not only stepped up and apologized and recognized it before anybody could bring it up, but then he took care of business by scoring last 11 points of the game and securing the win that he kind of, in his own words, put in a little despair a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, that's the accountability that you want from your leader, right? You want him to say that, look, I made a mistake. Like, we're not out here trying to pass stats. But in my opinion, watching the game, the reason why he was in that position was because of his selflessness. You know what I'm saying? It's because he was looking for his teammates. So I don't think his guys was mad at him. I think they were all cheering him on. But as your leader, to step up and voice that to the rest of the crew, or just to say that, it just lets everybody else know, look, we still focused on the right thing. Right now we got 13 wins, we rolling, but ultimately the bigger picture is for us to win long term. And the only way we're going to be able to do that is to build the right type of habit. So none of us can be out here looking to get an extra assist, or we just need to play the game the right way. And I think that's what he meant when he said that, but I also know that nobody was mad. Nobody was mad.
I was rooting for the triple-double.
Right.
Yeah,
go get your assist because you played the right way. In my opinion, you deserve that triple-double if you've never had one up until this point, and now you've made sacrifices to your game for your teammates, and you sitting on a triple-double because of your sacrifices. You know what? Go get it. I don't think you should pass up a dunk to get it. But if you continue to play the game the right way, it's going to happen.
Hey, listen, we got a lot to talk about here. 13-0 gives us so many angles. You know, you got to win on the road if you're going to be undefeated in the NBA. We have played the most games, a lot of back-to-backs. We're going to talk about what's going on around the league. I'm going to ask Boobie about him liking or not the fact that we're not leading the headlines nationally because we're 13-0 and then somebody scored 59 points or somebody had 8 triples. But, hey, stay with us. We're going to keep talking about the City Edition uniform, the Emirates Cup, and obviously the only undefeated team in the NBA, the Cleveland Cavaliers, coming back on Cleveland Full Court on the FanDuel Sports Network. De regreso con ustedes en Full Court Cleveland. You know I have to do a
English, Rafa, English. No comprehende.
Hey, Boobie, let's go back to, before we get to the headlines, because winning on the road is hard.
Yeah.
You've been on the road, and you know about all the distractions that could happen, although I think it also helps to build camaraderie, to build teamwork, to be together, you share meals. But what's the key to be able to be successful, not only, at home, but to go win on the road in places that are difficult to win normally, like in Chicago, in Philadelphia?
Don't matter your record when you're on the road, right? Because you can go into any building and the role players play better. Everybody just plays better. So what happens is it's those gut check moments that you have on the road. You can't get those at home because you got the 6 man behind you. You got to feel good. Everybody, all the energy is behind you. But when you go on the road, it's just your 15 guys, the coaching staff, and that's it. When you walk into that building, it's boos. It's everybody's against you. And so you develop a brotherhood, so you build that. But in those moments, you learn like, dang, I can trust my brother. Like if I throw it to him, we down 3, I hit him in the corner, he knocked that 3 down, I can trust him. So now you start to build in those moments. And so when you think about the Brooklyn game or the New Orleans game or the game we just had, I want to say the New York game, all these road games have been come from behind victories. But in each one of them, I see that calm confidence growing in Donovan in those moments. Like, you know what? Maybe we can go out there with a Dean Wade, Merrill, Niang, Jerome lineup and still be okay. I don't need to panic and tell coach to get me back in the game. And so I've been able to see him have fresh legs throughout those moments. But again, I think that the team chemistry and camaraderie is built on the road because it's just that bunker mentality, man. It's just you feel like it's y'all against the world. And if y'all can go in there and just shut everybody down in that building, it's the best feeling in the world.
And Sam, you're like my brother from another mother, the Wolf, Joe G. You've been around the league since when the league started.
Yeah.
And what Kenny Atkinson has found, and kind of is building around that, is the fact that there are so many players that can actually come in and contribute right away. One of the best examples I can think of for this season is, I don't know, and I'll leave it up to you guys, numbers guys, but I don't know if there have been that many occasions in this 13th season game so far where the Cavs have been on the floor without Mobley, Allen, Mitchell, and Garland. Yeah. And that was the case in Chicago when the whole core 4.
I think it was just the Brooklyn game was the other time that I remember because it caught me off guard. I looked out there. I was like, what the? No, you're right.
Yeah, against Chicago, Sam.
Yeah.
It was the bench with great minutes from Dean Wade and Sam Merrill and Ty Jerome. All he has is great minutes. Yeah. But how good was that for the team as a whole to see that it doesn't matter who's there? And I think that's one of the biggest weapons that the Cavs have, that there's no break for the other team. In the second quarter, when that second unit comes in, our second unit is a lot better than many second units you see out there.
That's been probably the biggest key to this 13-0 start has been the fact that the bench is clearly outplaying other benches. And it's because really Kenny Atkinson's pushing all the right buttons and putting all the right lineups in there. You know, as Booby alluded to, that game against Brooklyn, it was Evan Mobley and 4 guards that brought him back. And, you know, everybody else was kind of like, wow, that's amazing. And we asked Mobley about it, and he's like, no, I thought that lineup was perfect. You know, I thought that was the perfect idea. We went small, and Kenny Atkinson, Kenny Atkinson said, I was nervous about throwing those guys out there because the Nets kept getting rebounds, and we weren't rebounding the ball, and I was ready to mix it up, and I thought, okay, I'm going to give it a few more minutes and trust in these guys, and sure enough, that worked. Same thing in Chicago. Cavs were down 9 late in the third quarter. He goes to the bench. And
full force bench.
It was like a hockey shift.
See, it's different.
It was Merrill, Wade, Niang, Lavert, and Jerome.
And
kind of like took the game
Ty's been
over.
a big key to that. We'll talk more about him in a minute, I'm sure. But he's been a big key to that in terms of he's given them kind of that Ricky Rubio presence that they had a couple years ago with that coming in, calming things down, running the offense, and then course, hitting a big shot or two that you'd never think he would even take.
He's shooting over 50% from 3.
Yeah.
He's leading the team in steals, at least the last time I checked.
Yeah.
And Booby, you talked so much about the mentality coming off the bench.
It is so hard
for the most part, Jerome was coming in like late in the second quarter. He's kind of changing that. He's kind of closing games, and Kenny knows what he has in terms of like. I love that Garland Jerome, or the other night in Philly we saw Jerome and Craig Porter Jr. So he's going with 2 point guards. He's mixing it up. He's trying to figure out. But the great thing about it is that every 5 that he puts in there, it's working.
What a luxury to have, right? Because some coaches can say, you know what, I'm going 10 deep. But normally, within that 10, you got some kind of fall off. Like, there's somebody that's, like, not getting shots and feels like they need more. But with this group, I'm just watching everybody star in their role, be ready for their moment, and execute when their name is called. Like, in Milwaukee, it was Sam. In Brooklyn, like you said, Evan had a monster game. Last night in Philly, it was Isaac Okoro stepping in,
shooting 49% from 3.
Come on now, and like I gotta give
and
Ice,
playing big defense.
I gotta give him his love because coming into the season, he wasn't the starter, right? And most guys kind of get in their feelings and be like, okay. But every time I walked into the gym, first person in the gym, last person to leave. Stacking days every day. And so when I see him on the floor, when I see him shooting the ball with so much confidence, we all knew the defense was going to always be there. But I always felt like because of the work that he was putting in, that jump shot at any moment was going to turn into one that he just had the utmost confidence in. And so just seeing him get his opportunity and maximize on it. And even Kenny saying, like, you know what, I'm loving this starting 5. And if you think about it, this is the starting 5 that we've had for a while that we kind of questioned, but that's another shout to Kobe as well. Understanding that sometimes groups need time to grow and learn, and that's just the trust that we seeing with this group. And so it's early, we don't want to just say we got it all figured out now, but it's amazing to see what giving a group some time to grow and trust and learn each other can do for team chemistry.
Is it incredible to you to see the chemistry that this team has? So many times you hear about a new coach coming in or a new player coming in, and you're like, well, they're going to need some time to kind of get together. We saw in the last, decade, with all these big threes coming together. They never succeeded on the first. I think the Celtics were the only big 3, the originals,
right?
To actually win it in the first season.
Yeah.
All the other ones had to kind of find it. Some of them haven't found it yet. But is it surprising
never
to you?
found it.
Yeah. Right, yeah.
They blew up
teams. Some of them haven't found it yet.
I was saying in the past, they put these super teams together and they never figured it out.
Right.
But for us, like you said, we just,
But is it surprising to you that the way this team looks like they've been playing under Kenny Atkinson for quite a while?
Yeah, it's surprising to me because Kenny Atkinson kept telling us at the start of the season in training camp that it's going to take some time. So he was wrong about that. I called him out once. I said, Coach, you said you couldn't keep shooting 50% from the field, and you've continued to do that. And, of course, he laughed. But I think it is a little bit surprising that it's come together to this level where they're not losing games, there's times where, again, they haven't had the perfect game, but they're still winning. And I just think that there's a lot to be said for familiarity in the NBA. If you go back and look at the Denver Nuggets a couple years ago, they'd been together like 6 years, and people were like, this team isn't getting anywhere. So sometimes it pays to stick it out. But yeah, I think this has caught everybody by surprise in terms of not just the fact that they're connected and the chemistry's great, but that everybody, as Booby said, 1 through 10 has raised their game to another level, which to me, so quick to have that happen. Really, I haven't seen that before.
Sam, I just gotta jump in there. It is really hard to do.
Yeah.
Though. As me being in that position, like I really had to lock in knowing that I was only going to get 22 minutes.
Right.
So I'm like, I have to be prepared for maybe that has everybody a little more sharp, but I just don't want to skip over the fact that I have to give every single guy some love, knowing that like a Ty Jerome, you might only get 15 minutes, and you have to max out on those. And everybody's just been doing an unbelievable job.
And the best news about it is that everybody has gone out there and gotten their minutes, and whatever that number is, they have been performing at the Cavalier basketball level that Kenny Atkinson has been asking of them. So when we come back, we're going to talk about the biggest surprises or the biggest pieces of this 13-0 run. And also, we get the luxury to look ahead. And we're going to see about what's coming up in this week for the Cavaliers when we come back on Cleveland Full Court. We're back on Full Court Cleveland. I changed the name a little bit, and of course, Simon and Booby were telling me, "Hey, why the hell did you change
that's
the
that's
show's name?"
That's the Espanol. See, you jump in there, y'all be flipping words and saying everything.
Before we look ahead at what's coming up for the Cavs, big games, whichever way you look at it, I think when you're on the field, every game is a big game. But I don't want to say your MVP or your surprises or your pleasant surprises for the Cavs 13-0 run.
I think the biggest one to me personally would be Ty Jerome. I mean, he's really kind of the quote-unquote newcomer who's played a game and a half last season before suffering a debilitating foot injury there. Obviously couldn't come back at all. And I don't know that anybody really had much expectations for him entering this year. But he's really been that spark off the bench. Again, coming in and just calming things down, running things very well. And, coming into the year, I think a lot of people thought, what does the Cavs need? Well, a veteran backup point guard to give Mitchell and Garland some rest. And Ty Jerome has been the answer to that. And I think that, we've all kind of knew coming in he was capable, but I think the fact that he's really played through the first 13 games at this level has been a little bit of a surprise.
And you mentioned he only played 2 games for JB Bickerstaff. Do you think he healed completely when he heard the news that Kenny Atkinson had been hired by the Cavs? I mean, he's familiar.
Right.
He's familiar with the coach and everything.
Right. Yeah. I think that it was a long process, and Kenny Atkinson has praised him, Ty Jerome, saying we started coming to the gym in like August, the Cavs have, and Kenny Atkinson has said right away, Ty Jerome was doing this. He was intense. He was ready to go. You could tell that he hadn't played all last season. And there's probably some benefits there to being familiar with Kenny Atkinson from before, I'm sure.
And Booby, if I were to give you a choice, I know I'll give you bench players, to choose from. You mentioned Ice, who's been cold, bad cold from deep, and his defense has been Isaac Okoro defensive type.
Yeah.
But also we have the guy who is leading the league in plus or minus in the victory against Philadelphia. He was the only Cavalier in positive, and with a +6, it carries the Wolverine, Lavert, and any of those two. If I get you to pick, you take those two as big pieces, big reasons why
any
this
one
team.
of them. We could go to G-Wagon. We got the minivan. We got Sam Merrill. But just Karis LeVert's professionalism, man, just a consummate pro. Like, we talk about sacrifice, and we watch a guy, I'm pretty sure Kenny Atkinson remembers. I think he might have dropped 50 when he was with the Nets. Right? So he has a capability to be able to go out there and score. But I watch Karras play, and I watch him check into the game, and I watch him read the game and see what the game needs. He supplies what the game needs without worrying about accolades or anybody giving him any love for it, meaning he's going to dive on the floor for that 50-50 ball. He's going to crash in there for a rebound. If he sees a guy on the other team is hot when he comes in the game, he's asking his guys, can he guard him? And so those are the little winning plays that it won't show up in the stat sheet that you see a guy. But when you look at a 13-game win streak and you dig in and you try to see what's going on, it's guys like Caris LeVert making the sacrifices for a team like this to win. So he's another guy that I salute. Again, I just salute all these guys, but Caris just knowing what he's capable of as a pro. Because I look around the NBA, he probably could go start for a bunch of these teams. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But accepting your role when you think about like the Warriors, Andre Iguodala moment where he could have been a starter, but he was like, you know what? For this team, it works better if I come off
I'll
the
take
bench.
Finals MVP.
You know what I mean?
Right.
You know what I mean? But it's those type of sacrifices that tell the rest of the team we're about winning. We're not about me. It's not about you or the name on the back of the jersey. It's the name on the front of the jersey. And so Caris LeVert has been doing that since I've seen him. He's one of the best people in the world, too.
Yeah, I know.
Like, you
He's
gotta
my brother,
love, you gotta love the guy. Yeah.
Well, coming up for the Cavs is 4 games in the next week until we see you guys again, and 2 at home. Finally, we're going to play that Emirates Cup, NBA Cup game. You're going to love our Emirates NBA Cup court. I don't know if you got to see some
Are we
of
going
them.
to love it?
Yeah. No, you're going to love it. I saw some.
yeah.
I saw some like the. What was it? Philadelphia was playing a blue court that you could see the players' reflection on the.
Yeah, I'm saying some
But
of
then
those.
the Warriors court was okay.
Some of them
They
don't
played-
even look like home courts. I'm like, can at least it look like the team's
Yeah.
uniform or something?
Yeah.
Some of the colors be off the wall. But I
So,
did see ours, though. I do
2
like ours.
teams that we already beaten at the beginning of the road of this homestand with the Bulls. We finish it at the second leg of another back-to-back for the Cavs with the
Boy.
Pelicans when they come home and return the favor. And then in between, we have the visit of LaMelo Ball and a cup game in Boston against the champion.
Yeah.
So I'll give you a chance to pick what what are you most looking forward to this week.
Well, I think obviously you don't want to look ahead to that Boston
No.
game, but that's the big one on this. You know, you go in there and win, then maybe finally the national media will give the Cavs some love. I doubt it, but maybe. And then
Never.
yeah, right. You can't ever do it. So I think, you know, look, you beat the Bulls in Chicago. That was a tough game. Again, you needed the bench to spark in that game. Chicago's not a bad team this year. They look improved to me. So, you know, each one of these games has its importance. You mentioned LaMelo Ball. I think he's 3rd in the NBA or 4th in the NBA in scoring right now. He's had a fantastic year. Brandon Miller, to me, with Charlotte, is a superstar in the making.
Yep.
You know, so this is the NBA. There's no rest. And then after those 2 games, you get them at home, which is supposedly advantageous, and then you got to go to Boston.
One quick road trip.
And Boston's already lost at home in the Cup.
Right, so
you
now
know,
they licking their
which was a
chops.
they lost to Atlanta in that first Cup game
With no
without
Trae
Trae
Young.
Young.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
so you know they're going to be hungry for that game, and Porzingis is ramping up and getting close to coming back. So that's a big one. And then, you know, I don't want to downplay New Orleans, but clearly, you know, they're missing half the team with
Decimated.
injuries. They might be. It's too soon to write the season off. But
Is that a dangerous game, you think? I don't
Always.
want to look ahead, but
You know.
we have Philadelphia without because you face guys that are playing for their lives or for
Right.
their contracts,
That's what I was
and
finna
soon
say.
they're gonna have to be guaranteed contracts. So those games, I think, they are the most dangerous one and the hardest one to explain to fans.
Yeah, because you look at it, and it's like, as a player, you like, okay, you don't let down, but you're like, okay, we got this one, right? Because all the guys are out. But then on their end, each one of those guys are like, oh, this is my chance. This is my opportunity to not just play here, but just to get an opportunity across the league. And so those games are tough, but I think that for us, as we continue to develop a winning culture, we have to come into these games and try to find a way to play our game, because now everybody gonna want to knock that streak off, right? Because we might not be in the national media, but every NBA team know that we haven't lost. And so for every team, they looking like, oh, this is an opportunity for us to fix our season. And if we beat the Cavs, now people can kind of give us our respect. So it's just a different approach that the guys are going to have being the hunted now as opposed to the hunters.
2 NBA Cups coming up for the Cavs, and also 2 other games that are also important in order to continue on that run, the 6th best start in the history of the NBA. When we come back, we're going to see if Sam Amico is going to do a 3-pack or a 6-pack. If it's garage beer, you can do a 6-pack anytime.
I might do it
when
12.
we go with our ranking of the top 3 coaches in the NBA when we come back in Full Court Cleveland. Right back at you on Full Court Cleveland on FanDuel Sports Network. Booby Gibson, Sam Amico, yours truly, Rafa Hernandez Brito, and we're going to go with the top 3 rankings. And now I am told by our head coach, Ryan, that it's very strict 3.
Yeah.
You got that was directed at me, probably. Yeah.
Top 3 coaches in the NBA right now.
Top 3? I mean, I don't want to go with just the wins, but I mean, I'm going to go Coach Kenny, right?
Yeah.
We
got to be ahead of that, yeah.
Got to start there. I'll probably give some love to the hometown team, too, Udoka, the Rockets.
Yeah.
I think he did a great job in Boston, had some things happen, but I think he's got those guys
playing hard.
Oh, man, revved up and rolling. And then we'll go OKC with losing Chet and me watching 5 guards play last night. I feel like I always attribute teams not changing their identity when they lose guys. And last night, you just said it, they played hard. Everybody was on the floor just going crazy. So I think that it's a testament to the coaching staff over there at Oklahoma City, too.
And we just got to see if that's sustainable, too, because it's
5
although the Warriors were able to win championships, playing Draymond at the 5.
You never know.
What you got?
I got about 12, but I'll only go with 3.
It's hard to win just 3.
Man, you got 2 6-packs.
Right.
Huh?
Well, and I'm going to go with the obvious ones. I think Joe Mazzulla with the Celtics. It's not easy. You have a lot of different personalities there. They've been able to play
forget
this.
what he inherited, too.
Right.
You just mentioned him doing a good job. Udoka did a good job in Boston. He didn't inherit an easy thing.
Right.
Got to be ready.
So, I would say Mazzulla would probably be 3 on that list right now just because, they've rarely missed a beat. They haven't had Porzingis. Number 2, and Cavs fans probably aren't going to care for this very much, but I think he's done a magnificent job, obviously, again, as Steve Kerr, because you look at that Warriors team, a lot of people had them pegged as maybe a play-in team, but nothing better after, all the changes that they made. Then they lost Steph Curry for a couple games and DeAnthony Melton and still won those games convincingly. So, and then they went to Oklahoma City and beat the Thunder. So those would be 2 and 3, obviously number 1 right now. Leading coach of the year candidate through the first 13 games would be Kenny Atkinson, obviously.
Especially what he's doing, not only starting 13-0, but he already has the longest winning streak in Cavs history at any point of the season. And I think the fact that he's doing it, just bringing in his system and his ideas and his philosophy and making sure and getting everybody to buy in, I think is. I want to mention one guy that you guys skipped. That to me is very surprising that he's never won Coach of the Year. And I'm going to forgive the multi-brain cramps he had against Detroit.
Oh, yeah, he's always
Eric
good.
Spoelstra is the dude that can coach.
For sure.
Huh? Yeah. No, there's no doubt about that.
No question. No question.
He's fantastic. But those are.
I feel that was a little biased though to the Latin community.
I'm glad Ruby mentioned Udoka though, because he's done a magnificent job there in Houston. He's really been great there.
For them to be able to start the season off the way that they've been playing, and I feel like teams now going to Houston wait, this was a win last season, but now these guys are rolling. Now, again, I think it's a testament to what.
And I think all coaches are good, but guys that I like to talk to, even off the bench, and are actually very accessible, and you can actually talk to, is Mike Malone.
Yes.
One dude that I love to talk to him.
That's my brother right there. I almost said that. I almost just put him first just because of the relationship that I've had with
Yeah.
him over the years from the Cavs. But he's just an amazing coach all the way around. Like he knows how to toe that line between being able to relate to the guys and being able to get in your ad and let you know what you need to be doing. But yeah, Mike
All right.
Malone.
See,
Mikey
this
Malone.
is why we have lists
We have
that
to
are
have more
longer
than, yeah,
than
come on,
3.
let's make it a back. Talk to the production team.
No, you
Quickly,
have, you
let's-
got to organize your thoughts. You
Right.
can't just pick
Rapid
everybody.
fire. I don't want to say it's like shots now, but it's like a rapid
Hey,
fire.
shots. Hey, I'm up for shots.
Teams that have gotten off to a slow start early in the season, but Sixers 2-9, Bucks 4-8. They barely beat Detroit in overtime with a 59 piece from Giannis. The Mavericks on 5-6. The Knicks at 5-6, and also the Pacers. Almost every team in the East is either 500 or under 500, with the exception of 3 teams. The Magic.
Yep.
We just finally went over 500. Are you still surprised about that? And what do you?
Well, not really,
credit
because
that?
they lost Banchero
Yeah.
with the Magic, and still playing well. They've got a lot of talent, a lot of depth there. The surprises to me, really, I thought the Sixers would probably be a little bit better than 2-9, because they've had Paul George for some of those games, but they've also had the unfortunate, of losing Embiid or not having Embiid and losing Maxey, and then having to go on the West Coast on top of that. Yeah. So, and they've obviously really found a guy in this Jalen McDaniel, right? I mean, he had 34 points against the Cavs. A rookie, was unstoppable. So I think that they'll correct themselves at some point. To me, the biggest mess to me is the Bucks. You've got almost all your guys except for Middleton. They just don't seem great culturally there right now, and I think that's probably, to me, the biggest surprise, because they have championship expectations.
I'll go with Booby with the good surprises. The team's overachieving in this early part of the season. The Pistons with JB Bickerstaff 5-8,
Right.
14-68 last year.
Houston.
The Grizzlies with the return of Ja Morant, or the Spurs 6-6, even with Greg Popovich being absent for a while.
Yeah, I mean, I love what the Spurs are doing. Even coming into the season, I love the acquisitions that they made in the summer with adding some veteran leadership around Wemby, and to see him get out there and drop that 50 ball, I think he's letting the world know that the alien is here. We do have aliens. It's official. And so I would probably go with them. But before KD went down, I would have threw the Suns in there as well, because I felt like they came in with a lot of expectations and people were down on their big 3, but they came out really hot and kind of let everybody know that, new coaching staff, kind of like us, more spacing on the floor. It kind of opened up some things for those guys. So Phoenix too, but I'm loving what San Antonio is doing out there as well.
All right, well, we come back in Full Court Cleveland. We're going to talk about the big performances of the week, and also we're going to go off the court. I like that part. That's my favorite section of the show, by the way. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Full Court Cleveland. We're here in the 2-minute warning. I know that's football, right? The last part of the fourth quarter here for our show.
Still 2 minutes.
Big performances of the week. Wembanyama, 50 points against the Wizards.
Nice.
Shot like 8 triples, I believe.
The aliens are here.
Giannis, 59 piece.
He was the first one.
Or LeBron James, 3 consecutive triple doubles. Come on.
I'll let you go.
You're talking about aliens.
They're gonna tell me I'm biased, because you already know.
No, you're not.
You know who I'm
It's
picking.
okay. You're talking about aliens.
I'm the king, man. The king. Like, how can you not? Like, year 22.
Yeah.
And we're speaking about this triple double, but he just had 2 more before those. And I want to say one of them was without Anthony Davis didn't play or something like that. Like, come on. Like, I just, at this point, we talking about aliens. I don't know what factory they created LeBron James in, but I need you to come out.
I went to Akron this morning to visit some kids at a school, and I stop at every place to drink the water. Maybe I can still
Right, yeah, the secret stuff.
Literally, I used to check his locker at halftime every day. Like, what is in here, man? But I gotta go to King, man. It's just unbelievable.
Nobody agreed. Nobody's fighting you on that one. Before they shut the lights off here, your favorite sport other than basketball?
It's obviously football.
Football?
For a long time. The American football.
Okay.
I know that you know a different football.
I know.
But,
I never call it soccer. It's football.
Yeah,
Wait, Sam, you said obviously you cornerback? What was you, safety? You was getting out there?
That's right.
Running people over?
Yeah. I was wide receiver. I was like Wes Welker.
Okay.
You know, like small, slow,
Wayne Corbett.
no
Wayne
talent
Corbett.
whatsoever, and I somehow would manage to catch a pass.
I
You know,
love it. I
so
love
yeah,
it.
no, I'm obsessed with football. Unfortunately.
What about you? What else do you play when you were growing up?
Football. I was in Texas. You kind of had to a little bit, but I got hit one time though, and outdoor it was over for outdoors.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, basketball, it is.
Yeah.
I played a lot of football, football, soccer. And then when I came to the U.S., they wanted me to play football, American football. So I'm like, yeah, okay, I'll do it. And they hit me once, and I said, Coach, I'll kick for you, I'll punt, whatever you want me to do, but I don't have that chip in myself.
No.
Yeah, no,
So,
thanks.
I'm not-
That's the same thing with me. I got hit once. I mean, I got laid out, and I was like, why am I doing this? I'm not getting paid.
You're not hitting
know?
me for fun.
No,
Just 'cause
right,
you
yeah.
mad at something.
You're from Houston. You're from around here. Favorite season? I know today hasn't been a good day to think about season, with the rain all day, like freezing rain, but
I've always, for me, it's always been the fall because that means the start of the NBA season. Even when I was a little kid, I was 7, 8 years old, and at that point, I felt like I was the only person in the world paying attention to the NBA, and because that's back when I wrote my stories on chisel and granite. but I thought it was great. Fall has always been my favorite.
Yeah. Summertime for me, baby. Houston, Texas, LA, palm trees. Give me some sun. Let me let my hair blow in the wind, man.
Yeah.
I love summer because it's time off from basketball and also because baseball is in town. So.
Sure.
But listen, before we go, I want to remind you to come to the field house, and if you're there, come visit us in Legends Corner. Boovie sometimes comes in and drops a cameo visit. We're right on the atrium, right by the championship wall. This weekend is going to have Larry Nance and Boovie will be joining us, but we're there every home game, an hour, as soon as the doors open for an hour, with our legends of the Cavaliers, and also we're going to have some Cleveland surprises and some big play surprises. So we'll be back next week, hopefully with the 17-0 Cleveland Cavaliers, because full court Cleveland is still undefeated, my friends. See you next week on the Fans Duel Sport Network.